My name is Kelsey Scott. I am the Chief Strategy Officer for the Intertribal Agriculture Council. Come to you from the Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation in north central South Dakota. Hey, yeah, there we go. It's a true honor and privilege and a humbling experience to be on the stage with the phenomenal, talent-packed panel that we have this afternoon. We have a number of folks joining us from all across the Department of Agriculture, speaking to the great work that the administration's been doing, the collaboration that we've been able to have with the USDA across the different agencies in this past year, and even before that, and then looking ahead a little bit at where we're heading. We've got a little bit of a different structure today than what is typically displayed when we've invited folks from USDA up to join us on the stage. But when we were brainstorming and thinking through how we wanted to put together the afternoon session and getting everybody back from that amazing meal, right? How about one more round of applause for Crystal? Because wow, yeah. We were thinking about how do we have a lively conversation? How do we break the mold a little bit and invite folks to come together and to have conversation and to really discuss and deliberate, to share what they're most excited about in the work that they get to do, helping us to advance the mission of taking care of our land, feeding our people, helping the next generation to come and honoring the generation that has gone. And so without further ado, I'm going to jump into this afternoon's panel. Some questions that have actually been formulated for this panel by members of our team at the IAC. We're proud to be an organization that is predominantly staffed by farmers, ranchers, food producers, community food system activists all across the Indian country. And so we think that the conversation will be very reflective of the dialogue you guys would like to be able to have if you had the opportunity to sit down and visit with everybody up here. So I'm going to turn to introducing our crew up here. And I'm going to introduce with a brief bio for each of them. And then I'm going to challenge the entire panel at first with an initial question. And I'd love to hear this question answered by the entire panel because of the unique vantage points that each of them fill within the department. First, we have Heather Dawn Thompson. Heather Dawn Thompson was appointed Director of the Office of Tribal Relations. Ms. Thompson is a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, a Harvard Law School graduate, and an expert in American Indian law, tribal sovereignty, and rural tribal economic development. With this appointment, USDA returned the Office of Tribal Relations directly under the Secretary, restoring the office's important government-to-government role. Sorry while I shuffle pages here. All right, Ms. Thompson. This administration has intentionally diversified the portfolio of offerings at the USDA to ensure more equitable access for Indian producers. Can you name one of the key accomplishments that you are most proud of?
One? That's a trick question. I will land on one, but I'm going to frame it with a couple. Overall, I'm just really proud that this administration has listened to you guys as producers and to tribes and has really aggressively incorporated your feedback across the board, which you're going to hear from my teammates. We've been trying to increase markets for Native producers, including purchasing in smaller quantities and promoting your products in DC with decision makers, including many of the ones that were in our lunch today. We've been trying to increase processing opportunities for you, particularly we understand the challenges the cattle industry faced during COVID. And we've been trying to work with BIA in a way that we have not done historically. I think we've had 3 MOUs with BIA and never implemented any of them on tribal farming and ranching. And that's changing. And I hope you all come to visit tomorrow at 3:30 when they're here with us to talk about agricultural and grazing leases, which I know affect a lot of your farms and ranches. But the one thing that I wanted to highlight that I'm particularly proud of, and this is the nerd in me, the lawyer in me that's coming out, is we were able, for the first time ever, for grasslands. I know there's a lot of national grasslands. I'm from South Dakota, from Cheyenne River, that are near or adjacent to our homelands and our reservations. For the first time ever, we were able to make sure that trust lands were eligible for base property so that you can get grasslands leases. And I think the long-term systemic impact of that is going to be really significant for our producers. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you. Next, let's turn to Mr. Astor Boozer. Astor Boozer has served in the NRCS Regional Conservationist for the West Region since December of 2011. He provides agency and natural resources leadership and support to state conservationists and partners and ensures states effectively manage an extensive portfolio of comprehensive conservation strategies. A native Texan and a diehard Cowboys fan, let's not hold that against him. He's been an advocate that it grew up on a farm and ranch operation where he learned all about agriculture and caring for the land. During his tenure with NRCS, he's worked in 8 states. Is that still true? 8, all right. In a variety of state, regional, and national positions. I would task the same question to you, Mr. Boozer. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I think
All right.
I'll be able to get some out of it from just listening to it. You know, and I think back to Chief Cosby and some of his opening comments that we were able to look at this morning, and really getting at the fact of the opportunities that we've had from an agency perspective to listen to what our tribes are saying or asking our tribal members, our landowners out there about what it is that we can do to help. So I think one of the proudest items or moments that I'm thinking about is really some of the practice improvement that we have, some expansion of practices, you know, whether it's some of our fencing opportunities, water, or what our grazing as well, you know, with some of the stock that our tribal members are utilizing. So that's one. I mean, I think I could go on and say 2 or 3 others, but we'll stick with that one. That opportunity to provide, I'll say, a result from listening and giving those opportunities for us to enhance the practices that folks are asking for. So that would be one that I would say that we've had the opportunity, and I'm proud of that. I think more can be done. Yeah. You know, we definitely don't want to rest on our laurels and say we've done it all, but we definitely know that there's more opportunities, and we're hoping that as we're talking with our tribal members, our leaders within the states, that we continue to hear the opportunity of what we should do and how we should do, and then we can actually adjust that and make those movements and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. There's more that can be done, is what I heard, and I think another person on the panel that likely has heard this or says it often is Zach Ducheneaux. Zach Ducheneaux was appointed administrator for USDA's Farm Service Agency in 2021. In this role, he will provide leadership and direction on agricultural policy, administering loan programs, and managing conservation, commodity, disaster, and farm marketing programs through the national network of offices that we all work with out there across the country. He was a previous executive director of the IAC, and I heard he has a really cute grandson. Mr. Ducheneaux, I would ask the same question of you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see the family again. As both of the other folks said, there's too many to list, but first and foremost is the work that I get to do in the farm loan programs, because it was farm loans and disaster that really were the penultimate events that created the intertribal agriculture. The farm financial crisis of the 80s led a bunch of producers who were unable to grow their feed their animals, to get together and talk about how do we get some solutions built. Since my time there, we've been able to, with the team, shorten the loan application from 29 to 13 pages, develop an online application portal, and that's just the beginning. We're going to continue to push. We are advocating for a change in the culture of the way FSA does lending. And instead of being a lender of last resort, where you all get told to go to the bank and get turned down, we want to be the lender of the best opportunity, and we want to get you in the door. And we're working internally to get that message across, but we need feedback from all of you because there are places in the countryside today where it isn't reaching. So when you get that message, this is why the cooperator network is so important. Let your team know out there in the field. Let your TA network know. Call me. My phone number is on the website. We want to know where the message isn't coming across so that we can continue to do this. And there's one other thing that I'm really proud of that I've been able to do. In my office, we've got these 35-year coins. They're really kind of cool. And they're meant for employees that spend 35 years. Occasionally, I will get Native American youth come in with a mentor or a parent or a group. And when they go out, I give them a 25 or a 35-year coin. And I say, you bring this back here when you come to work in this office, in this building, in 25 or 35 years. I get to share that, share with them the opportunity that they have, share with you all that 25 years ago, I was sitting out there doing what you're doing. We can do this. We can continue to mark the progress that the IAC has paved for Indian country, and we can do it all together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm not as good at riling up the crowd as our MC is, but you guys can feel free to hoop and holler whenever you'd like, because I know that they're already sharing some pretty great stuff this afternoon. There. You guys are a great crowd. He's maybe not that good. You guys are just an easy crowd.
Kelsey, do you remember when you used to watch Sesame Street and there was those two old guys in that deal up there? We got Kieran Tikon right up here.
Moving from one first to another, Marcia Bunger was named administrator for the Risk Management Agency. She is the first member of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community and the first woman to serve as the RMA administrator. Yeah. She joins USDA after serving as county executive director for USDA's Farm Service Agency for 18 years. In total, she has over 25 years of experience working for USDA and the Farm Service Agency. In her role as the county executive director, she worked closely with the Pine Ridge tribal government leaders and in personnel to administer FSA programs on the second largest land-based Indian reservation in the U.S. She served 15 years on the South Dakota Advisory Council to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights and previously held positions at Farm Credit Services of America. Marcia, what has been some of your highlight, your number one highlight, if you can narrow it down to one, as your time in the role of being Administrator Bunger?
Thank you for the question. Thank you, Kelsey, for a little bit of history. I was a bride of the 80s. I saw a lot of farms go by the way. I saw a lot of people lose their land. So it was important that I could help somehow, and so I sought off-farm employment. I was lucky to be able to work at a Farm Service Agency, gained a lot of experience, and then in the last several years, I became a crop insurance agent. And it's a role I love to this day, and someday I hope to return to that. But in this role now, as I have traveled across the country and talked with you all, there isn't always knowledge about crop insurance. There isn't access to crop insurance agents. There isn't access to loss adjusters who all look like their communities. And so I said, why not? And from that was born my vision of called Building Resiliency. Building Resiliency is a pilot project that RMA is working in partnership with the Intertribal Ag Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm here to do like recruitment. We need crop insurance agents and loss adjusters in your communities. It is the most fantastic way to stay in your communities, provide some extra income, but yet you are the best resources to be able to help educate and mentor others about what crop insurance can do and is. So that's probably one of the most important things that I would like to say that has been my experience since coming to RMA. And so please reach out to Tommy Peterson. If you know somebody in your community, if you're sitting there thinking, maybe I would like to be a loss adjuster. Maybe I would like to be a crop insurance agency. Maybe I would like to be an agent. It provides you so much autonomy. I got to be my own boss once I left Farm Credit and became an insurance agent. I controlled my destiny, but yet I had a very it was a very fulfilling career that I got to continue to work with individuals in my community and talk about, did you know about this product? Did you know about that product? And I think you all as farmers and ranchers, you know what it's like to have to go to your lender. Any more these days, the lender is going to say, do you have insurance? And we need you to be able to step up and be that agent, be that loss adjuster, so that you can then turn around and serve your neighbors, your friends. So thanks for the question.
I'm imagining our next flyer, the Uncle Sam wants you, we'll have Aunt Marcia wants you. She's going to be pictured front and center on that. Thank you for your partnership on the project. We have our Regenerative Economies team is here, Tommy Peterson, Julian Ledford, Padgley Gonzalez. They'll be circulating around the trade show area. They're the people to visit with if you want to get put in contact with an update on where we're at on that project or different ways that you can plug into it. We're really excited to be a partner in that. And we saved the best for last.
That's questionable.
Okay, well, I'll give you a chance to prove it. Okay, all right. Robert Bonney is the Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation at USDA. Prior to joining USDA, Mr. Bonney was at Duke University, first as a Rubenstein Fellow and later as an executive in residence at the Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions, working on conservation and environmental issues in rural America. In 2020, Bonney also worked with the Bipartisan Policy Center on its Farm and Forest Carbon Solutions Initiative. Bonney was Under Secretary for Natural Resources Environment at USDA from 2013 to 2017, and a senior advisor to Secretary Vilsack from 2009 to 2013. He lives with his wife, Julie, and daughter, Lily, in Loudoun County?
Loudoun County.
Loudoun County, Virginia. All right. Let's hear what you're most proud of.
Okay, so the one big thing I'm most proud of is it's not one big thing, that it's lots of things. Some of them are big things. The work that Zach is doing on farm finance is a big thing that I think can have benefits to tribal communities, but to, frankly, all of agriculture. The work that Heather Dawn's done with BIA is a big thing, and I think can have long-lasting results. Sometimes what we do are little things, and I think about the practices that NRCS is working on to make sure that when we show up, we've got things that actually work for producers on the ground. Put all those practices together, it's a big thing, but there are lots of little things, little details that matter. The work you're doing, Marcia, is another big thing to create, how do we diversify all our tools, whether it's crop insurance, but Zach's programs in FSA, NRCS, how do we make sure all our programs work for all of agriculture? We've got a lot to do in terms of outreach, trying to build partnerships with IAC and a whole lot of other folks. That's really important. We've got to make sure that when folks walk into our offices that they're welcome, and Zach talked about culture and the importance of that. So there are lots of things, and I'm proudest of all those things. But I'll say this, we're also humble. You heard it from Astor. I think you got the sense from others. We've got a lot more to do. We've got a lot more listening to do. We're not there. We're not where we need to be. You're not. We're not in a place where we're serving you as well as we can. There's far more for us to do, and we welcome the partnership with all of you to be able to do that.
Thank you very much. Well, and I got to add another big accomplishment of this entire panel here is you've been able to keep everybody awake so far after that big meal. No, it's been a real privilege, like I've said, getting to just listen from their vantage point of what they view as some of the accomplishments. We as producers, day in and day out, hearing what's going on, feeling what's going on as we're entering into those county offices, we have our own perspective of what's being accomplished, but to hear from the national level, the folks that are working on the culture change, that are working on ensuring this is a permanent step forward in service to our communities, it's great to hear what you all are working on so that we can be those eyes and ears on the ground to let you know how it's going. As a follow-up question, what ways has a diversified leadership body contributed to the successes that you all just highlighted?
I'll take the first whack at that, I guess. The perspective of generational transformation, sort of what the IAC embodies. They started in 1987. I don't think any of them ever knew when we would get to where we are today, but I guarantee you they all had a vision of it, and they kept at it. And they were able to achieve it by looking forward and thinking about what we can do to improve that. And the IAC has always been about bringing solutions and being patient. That's what I'm bringing to the office of the FSA administrator, your FSA administrator. There are so many things that I wanted to go in there and stomp my feet around and change day one. But that's not how you get buy-in. It's not how you get the FSA Farm Loan Leadership Team to start to think about, hey, maybe we could do this a little different if we had the support of the secretary and the undersecretary and the deputy undersecretary and partnerships with NRCS and the OTR. So we bring that perspective of patience, but forward-looking and solution building. And I think that's really where we're going to continue to make a lot of hay in this administration with our friends in Indian country, in the black farming community, and all of our underserved populations, really getting them to the table and helping serve more equitably.
So thanks, Zach. That made me think about just some opportunities that we've talked about. One USDA. I think that ties in exactly what you're saying of the collaborative efforts and opportunities that we have, that we are working closer with each other, which provides that service to our landowners, our tribal members, our tribal farmers and ranchers out there. That's just one of the topics I think that is key and important in that, but I also will refer to more specific within the agency. We've actually looked at how a strategy that our chief has pulled together for us to really focus and to continue to listen, but also continue to build on the staff that we have, putting the right people in the right location, and moving forward, we're trying to address the needs across the landscape.
I'll chime in as well, and I think, serving all of agriculture isn't important just from a standpoint of that's the right thing for us to do. We need to make sure that everybody feels welcome and that our programs fit everybody. But it's also critically important for the future of USDA. USDA needs to be relevant to everybody in agriculture and to everybody. We have a increasingly diversifying country. We're getting a lot of demands these days on urban ag. Or in value added or other areas where we need to adjust, we need to adapt. And so, our partnership with you all is really important, but it's also part of a broader vision to make sure USDA actually stays relevant to a rapidly changing and diversifying country. And so, frankly, from a selfish standpoint, this stuff is actually incredibly important. It's incredibly important because obviously we have to serve all of you. It's also important to the future of the department more broadly.
Diversity is about people, but it's also about the crops, the commodities you grow. I'm from, the Upper Plains, where my operation was basically traditional row crops. And specifically with crop insurance, that was something that has been served for decades. I think crop insurance started back in 1937. And so from my optic, my policy on corn and beans is phenomenal. That doesn't mean it's phenomenal across the board. This administration, this department, is committed to, and along with RMA, we continue to look for ways to expand our coverages to all crops. And we're not only talking the plant crop, we're talking livestock. So we continue to look at ways to better serve you and all the things that you are raising, growing, but we can't do it without you. Crop insurance, commodity insurance is science-based. So we will be looking to you to provide your feedback, provide your experiences, but also talk to us about your needs. How you see, how you envision your particular crops, your particular livestock operation, and how USDA, but crop insurance, commodity insurance, can enhance and bring your coverages up to the level of those traditional crops. Livestock has been a key focus this coming year for RMA. We have made some announcements most recently, and we can possibly talk about some of the deadlines here in a little bit, but wean calf, I'm so proud of that particular one. Our operation is a wean calf, we're a cow-calf operation in South Dakota, and so up until this recent announcement, there wasn't coverage for us. So it's because of input from all of you that came to be. So don't think that we're not here to listen, because it's my favorite part of this job role, is to be able to go out into your communities and listen to you. And I never realized all of the different things that are grown, that are raised across this country. But more importantly, you need to have those risk management tools available to you so that you can sustain your operations today and into the future.
And I just wanted to highlight the importance of diverse leadership, of lived experience. You know, you have people on this panel that have come from families that have lost land, that come from families that and personally experienced discrimination. And that matters when you're in the room making decisions about how these policies affect Indian country. And I really wanted to highlight that this administration has more natives in policy decision positions than any administration ever in the history. And that matters. Because not only do you have folks that understand checkerboard and BIA and trust lands and indigenous knowledge, when we walk into that room, we understand our ancestral obligations. And that carries a completely different weight than any other decision making.
Building from that, you mentioned lived experiences. We're very proud to be hosting a large representation of Indian producers with us in the audience today, several of whom have had a direct hand in growing, harvesting, and tending the lands that contributed to that delicious meal we just had. I'd love to hear from the panel. What message do you have for our producers in the audience today? How might we as producers continue to show up in our local USDA offices to inform this administration's legacy of providing enhanced services to Indian country?
I'll start. Share your voice. County committee elections just wrapped up. Hopefully we've got a whole bunch more Indian representation on our county committees. I know we've got a handful of Indians serving on our state committees. Those are two opportunities that we shouldn't let fall by the wayside and we shouldn't take lightly. Indian country, by virtue of a lot of the ownership structure in your tribal nations and reservations, you're all entitled to vote if your tribe has ag land in county committees. And they're the front line for policy determination and eligibility in many cases. And it's a tremendous opportunity that you have to be the voice for the producers who have operations like yours. We don't use it enough, and we've got to do a better job of that. So those nominations are going to go out again next June. There's no excuse for Indian reservations and Indian country not to fill your county committees. You can, you should, and it'll make a damn difference.
That's a good one, Zach. I think we're in a really challenging time with the recent Supreme Court decisions on affirmative action and the ARPA litigation, it has been really difficult. I know the language you're using here is enhanced services, but set-asides, things like that have been really challenging to target Indian country in a way that is probably preferred. And so we have really leaned into being creative together to best serve our communities, using things like hub zones, which are economic preferences, leaning into supporting tribal governments, which haven't always had the best relationship with their tribal producers, but are entities that we can clearly preference in a lot of circumstances. And so that would be one thing that I would really encourage and welcome from the producers in the room, is to help us think creatively. How can we really serve you in ways that are helpful, understanding these challenges that the Supreme Court and other court cases have created for us, and still be able to get you the services that you need and deserve?
And I'll build on that. We spend a lot of time tinkering and fixing and figuring out what tools that the Congress gives us through the Farm Bill, through the budget, we can use to better serve our customers. When you come to us with a problem, we're going to try and be as creative as we can to fix it in whether it's a crop insurance issue, FSA, and RCS. We welcome your criticism and your input in order to be able to do that, what we hope will be intelligent tinkering as part of our programs. And so your all's voices is incredibly important. And, we'll be as creative as we can. We'll bend statutes and regulations to the extent we can to be creative and be responsive. But ultimately, in order to do that, we need to hear from you and to understand what your needs are.
So I just like that. Creativity is definitely one we want to have available. And, I think from my perspective, the local opportunities to talk with our field staff, tribal liaisons, our state conservationists, those are the individuals that will be listening, and they're right there on the ground to see what is actually happening. So we have to continue to have that connection of our local staff. That work that's happening there is local, and we want to take that information that we find and that we hear about at that local perspective, and then make the adjustments where we need to, whether it's something within the state that the state conservationist has that authority to do, or if this is something that needs to come up to a higher level. So we have a few of our state conservationists in the room. We have a bunch of our tribal liaisons in the room. And from our perspective as leadership, we're expecting them to have the conversations with you, listen to you, and bring information back to leadership across the board. It's just not for one agency, but what is happening out there that they can actually bring back to the group to where we can make those adjustments that ties into the creativity, ties into the other work that we're trying to do. So we want to make sure that we're having those opportunities, continue to work with our folks on the ground that are right there with you, listening and trying to develop those practice standards or address any programmatic type of opportunities that may be there that you have to deal with.
I would like to maybe talk a little bit about outside of government. So as a farmer, producer myself, and why I ended up being a crop insurance agent, is that it gave me a great deal of independence and autonomy. Crop insurance, RMA, is a small agency. We're structured differently than NRCS, FSA. RMA is a staff of 400. But the dollars that we regulate are larger than, I think, everybody put together over here. $207 billion is what RMA is regulating. And that is because of the private-public partnership. So that means outside of government, there are opportunities for you to grab a hold of and experience not only the job satisfaction from your role in the crop insurance world, but also a very viable way to support your families and to support your communities. Remember, take home that number. $207 billion is what the crop commodity industry is currently at with what we cover. So while we talk about government and, we seem to be kind of stymied once in a while, the world is your oyster. And by the way, we have a shellfish policy. So the world is really your oyster when you think about agriculture and insurance.
Small but mighty is what I hear there. Well, let's zoom in just a little bit more for the benefit of these producers. Thank you all so much for what you've shared before, but can you be specific about any key deadlines that they might need to be tracking for themselves and their operations in the coming 90 days? Does anything stand out as front of the mind from the bodies of work that you all are overseeing?
I'll jump in. So I've put back my agent hat on. Some of the deadlines coming up that I think you farmers, ranchers should take note of is that we now have announced a pilot insurance product, weaned calf, for the cow-calf producer. It is only piloted in 4 states. At some point when we gain enough experience, we hope to expand that, but currently it's being offered in South Dakota, it's being offered in Nebraska, Colorado, and Texas. And that deadline to purchase that policy is January 31st. In addition, for row crops, spring planted crops, that deadline is a little bit further out, but that's March 15th. We also have a livestock roadshow that we are doing in the coming months. We are hosting them both virtually and in person across the country, where we have subject matter experts from RMA out in the country, out in the field, hosting informational, educational opportunities for producers, for agents, for the public. All are welcome to attend. In addition, RMA is going to be announcing in January, again, their 2024 offerings we'll be taking applications for grant partnerships. And I'm proud to say this last year, I think probably for the first time ever at USDA, we also have a grant writing assistance program that will be offered to those smaller universities, community centers that don't have a full-time grant writer. And so that is an opportunity that we're going to help provide someone to help write the grant, but also to make sure that you're tracking that grant all along through the life of the grant. So those are some deadlines that are coming up. So thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
A majority of the producers in Indian country are representative of what we know for the majority of livestock producers across Indian country. They're those cow-calf producers. Mm-hmm. What does it look like if you've never been eligible for a risk coverage offering before for that cow-calf producer who just learned that in their state there's a pilot opportunity? Who do they contact? Where do they begin?
Thank you, Kelsey. I should have talked about that a little bit more. So if you know a crop insurance agent, that's who you need to get a hold of. So if you have a current agent, be talking to your agent. But yet if you don't have an agent, we have on our website what's called an agent locator. So you would go to www.rma.usda.gov, go to the tab for agent locator, and find the nearest agent near you, so that you can start to have that conversation again. Now's the time to start talking and asking those questions, because the deadline to purchase that is January 31st. But again, we need you to be agents and loss adjusters. So think about that and go back to your communities and spread the word. Thanks.
A few deadlines that FSA has coming up. We've got the cash flow-based assistance and the extraordinary measures authorized in Section 22006, basically farm loan assistance. If you're having trouble making your FSA direct loan payments, get in touch with us, get on the website, go through the portal. You can fill that application out. You still have time to get that in. Of course, as my good friend Carrie Jo Lawrence announced earlier, DFAP has a deadline that's coming up soon. Make sure you get with the IAC or your local cooperator and get assistance in getting that filled out. Going back to livestock a little bit, you know, the 2017 ag census, I always lean back on my ag census numbers. Agriculture in Indian country was about 65% livestock. So we've been working very consciously to improve the livestock offering in our disaster programs. Deadlines for that are January 31st, but what I want to say about deadlines is you all need to learn 5 words. What about late filed applications?
Can you repeat those?
What about late filed applications? And then you get on your county committee and you offer the discretion that you have to your fellow producers who may just be up against it and didn't know. You have that latitude as a county committee to accept late filed applications for many of our programs. Another is there DAFP waiver authority? Don't just take our deadline and accept it. Oftentimes in the federal government, there's a pathway to accommodate the circumstances that are beyond your control, and we want to make sure you're aware of them because we have really knocked it out of the park, improving our livestock disaster programs, helping with feed assistance, helping with freight, changing lip rates, getting horses into those disaster programs, something this organization has been chewing our ear about for 35 years. So all of those things are out there. We do have deadlines, but what about a late filed application?
I want to talk about a rolling deadline for selling your products. You heard Undersecretary Moffitt this morning talk about the local food procurement program. The acronym and that you can Google is LFPA. And you heard her say that we have given $115 million to tribal governments to purchase from you. So that's how we are setting that up. So it goes directly to the tribal governments. It's some of our most flexible money ever. It's a rolling, the money's going out to them now. They have to purchase locally. Preference for you as tribal producers. They can pretty much buy anything as long as it's not overly processed, so any of your products, and then they redistribute it to the community for those who need it. So if you are in need of a purchaser for your product that is a rolling deadline, the tribes that have received it is public. It's on our website, LFPA, Google that, and reach out to your tribal governments to purchase from you so that you have a good market and a very flexible purchaser there.
So I'm not going to say deadlines, folks. With our environmental quality incentive program, we'll be taking sign-ups and actually be running through a ranking process to where we will be able to provide that information to you a lot faster than we have been before. So keep that in mind. There'll be more information that you'll be hearing about. And the term that we were using on it is more of an act now, to where we hope that when you walk through the door, you'll be able to have a contract or have that determination that you'll have a contract within a few days and stuff. So we're continuing to move that needle forward. Other programs, specifically our Regional Conservation and Partnership Program, RCPP, you know, that's one that we are working through right now. Their land coming up, I think we'll have something in January, but we will be more specific about that. We'll have a breakout session later on this week that we'll talk more, but we'll definitely be getting information out to all of our tribal liaisons, IAC and other tribal organizations, making sure you're aware of the time frames that are allotted, and then we'll be working with you, getting information out to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for that. We've got just a few minutes left of the panel, and so I'm going to pivot just a little bit. In our closing time together, I would like to pay tribute to a different group of people that are out here in the audience today. One of the things that the IAC is very proud of is our ability to, through our cooperatorship, have a shared investment in the next generation of leaders. And we are in Las Vegas, Nevada, and bringing a group of high school students to Vegas could not be possible without their trusted chaperones. And we have a room full of mentors, of folks that are here with a youth that they've left us. That's a part of the energy change. It's not just that we're sleepy after that meal. The youth are in their separate track now. They're engaging as young leaders in the next generation, hopefully of the IAC and of all of Indian food systems and USDA and beyond. And now you've got the ear of the mentors Could you speak a little bit to what mentorship has done for each of you in your careers, either as a mentor or a story that you may share of how a mentor had a positive impact on you accomplishing the tremendous career trajectory that you all have had so far?
You know, I thought she was going a different way with this question and going to speak to the youth on this panel, but she didn't go there. You know, I've had the value of some tremendous mentors in my life, starting with the old man that wore this vest. When things were hard in the 80s, we didn't know. We were shielded from it. They protected us from it. And there's been one time when we brought all those youth to the IAC, when I got to be part of the team here, that we had an economist get up here and start to paint this tale of misery and woe. And I kind of wanted to tackle him and drag him off the stage and beat the hell out of him, because we're trying to inspire this next generation. Because if we had the solutions, even those of us in our age group, we wouldn't need to be having conferences around the country to do this. We would all be home doing agriculture, and the next generation would already be doing it. So our role as mentors is to pass that on and help focus our energy on the good things that are going on in our communities, because what we give energy to is going to grow. Keep that forward-looking aspect. I had an old friend that told me a rearview mirror is this big and a windshield is that big. You should use them in about that proportion. Focus on the future, focus on the solutions, and let's build them all together.
I'd say your dad been a mentor to me and a whole lot of the rest of us out here. My uncles who are producers on Cheyenne River for sure. But I think the most interesting thing was last year when I went to IAC. So maybe when I started law school, which was a while ago, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago. But when I would first go to the IAC meetings, I was one of the only attorneys that did ag and did rural development. There was probably maybe 5, maybe 10 on a good day, but probably like 5 of us. And I went to that meeting and a few others, and I was like, I don't know any of these people. This is amazing, right? This is perfect. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. These next generation are supposed to supplant us. And that was the most inspiring moment, to see the young people that we'd been talking to now taking our jobs and running these panels and being the experts up here. And we really love to lean into that now. And one of the things that we're doing together at USDA is we're trying to bridge that gap with, young kids call it food sovereignty now and sovereignty gardens, but they want to be producers. They just don't know it yet. We're using different nomenclature. We're using different language. And so we're leaning in real aggressively to food sovereignty and getting the young folks excited about the chefs that you saw today and foraging and growing foods and gardens. And we just released a cartoon that's akin to Sesame Street with a buffalo that is learning how to grow a garden. And it's called Sovereignty Gardens. So if you guys Google that on our website, it's for little kids to get them excited about being producers and growing and farming and ranching. And so we're honored to be able to pass down some of the mentorship lessons that we learned from our ancestors and from our relatives.
Like Zach, my father, my grandfather were incredibly important mentors to me, but I want to talk about one other really important mentor, which is a guy named Tom Vilsack, who's the Secretary of Agriculture. We're all able to do all the things we've talked about because we have a secretary that cares deeply about this broad mission. And we have a president that supports that secretary. And we, sort of the sausage making that happens behind all these ideas are, we sometimes have to convince Congress, sometimes we have to convince something called the Office of Management and Budget over at the White House. We've got all these folks to make this stuff happening. Sometimes it takes money, sometimes it takes lawyers, sometimes it takes regulation, sometimes it takes law. And you got a Secretary of Agriculture right now that cares deeply about everything we've been talking about today. And that makes all of our job a lot easier. So shout out to the boss.
So I'll also say, family and parents that bring you up from, birth until they kick you out of the house or whatever, play the key role. But I think once I was with the agency, there's some key individuals that really pushed me to do more than what I thought I wanted to do. It really challenged to make decisions on doing more for people. And then I think the other perspective is when it's coming to the time to offer and mentor someone, I approach it the same way as it was dealt with me and stuff, really pushing people to get outside their comfort zone, making sure you have some opportunities to get into locations that you had never been before and actually get that exposure. So I think this opportunity for the youth that are here with their mentors, that's pushing them outside of their comfort zone. I think that really gives them that next step and opportunities to be successful, to get into areas that they may not see anyone like them, but they get there and they can build on what they have and then reach down and help somebody behind them get an opportunity to be successful.
I'm going to say, basically the same thing, family, but I'm going to pivot and turn to my maternal side. My mom came to this country in 1955. She didn't speak English. Smart woman, strong woman, brave woman, independent. And so my sister and I had a great role model to follow. And the women in my family, we continue to model our behavior. We're not afraid. I would encourage all of the women in this audience to remember that while I'm the first woman to hold this position, I'm not going to be the last. So don't be afraid, be brave.
Well, thank you all for everything that you've had to share with us today, from the personal stories to the lived experiences to the efforts that you're still leading in all of your respective roles on continuing to shift policy, service, and offerings and programming to serve all of us in the audience today and all of the communities that we represent at home. It is truly, truly a privilege to get the opportunity to have you all here on stage. Thank you for taking the time out of the busy season, out of your busy, very crucial, very important jobs to be here, to have this interaction with us. And we look forward to hopefully welcoming you back next year. Thank you.
Thanks.